All right, the South region of the bracket finds us with the number one overall seed, the Alabama Crimson Tide, top 20 in adjusted offense and defense. The only team besides Texas and Houston, those are the only three teams top 20 in those both of those categories. They're 19th in offense, third in defense. They actually have the number one 2 point defense and the number three 3 point defense in the country, number one effective field goal percentage defense as well. So very good at shutting down opposing offenses. They won the SEC conference tournament. They won the SEC regular season by several games. Brandon Miller, despite the involvement in a shooting, averaging 19.5 points per game, didn't miss any time, 8.2 rebounds, 2 assists, almost a steal, and a block per game, almost 46% shooting, 85% from the line, over 40% 3 point shooting. He is a supernova superstar player who will be in the NBA next season. Mark Sears, almost 13 points per game, filling up stat boxes as well. It's a very long, very good team. Of course, Nate Oates likes to shoot a lot of threes and play up tempo a lot, and that's what this team does. Fifth in the speed, essentially tempo nationally, fourth after adjusted tempo as well. So one of the quickest teams, takes a lot of threes, except they have an exceptional talent on here as well, and they play really good defense, which has been a wart on some of his previous squads. So can this team win the national championship? Absolutely. Have they had a few problems, particularly early in the year against a few tougher teams in Gonzaga and Connecticut? And they had a really weird loss against Oklahoma in the middle of the year, 93-69, when some things didn't go their way. That can happen as well. But the fact is, this team is 29-5, has one of the best records in the country. They're 13-5 in quad one, no losses outside of some of the top teams. I'm actually not sure how Oklahoma still qualifies as a quad one, but outside of that anomaly, and just some great wins in here for a really good basketball team. Now in the same basket, same basket here, same regional here. We unfortunately have the game for two great teams we wanted to see make a run. They're unfortunately playing each other, with San Diego State as a 5 seed matched up against 12 seed Charleston. So that's very unfortunate, as we'd like to see those two teams play, a Power Five team and see how they match up. But instead, they'll be playing each other. We have a couple other interesting teams in this bracket as well. Utah State, a very good Mountain West team. Arizona's in here. Furman is actually going to be an interesting squad as well. But let's work our way down. Alabama will be playing the winner of the play-in game of 16 seeds here that I don't have right in front of me. But they'll make quick work of those squads. Maryland and West Virginia is the 8-9 matchup. These are two interesting teams. They're both 500 in their last 10 games. Both of these teams have very balanced scoring options, and both of them have lost about a third of their options quad one to opportunities, chances to get quad one wins. So, relatively bland teams altogether. Maryland's 3-10 in quad one. West Virginia 6-13. Maryland somehow top 40 in offensive and defensive efficiency. West Virginia has a top 15 offense. So the metrics say that these teams can make things happen, but they can't beat really good teams. Is essentially what the numbers say. So it should be an interesting game between each other. I was actually interested to see West Virginia make it in right off the bat there at 19-14. But the Big 12 had a lot of respect this year for the strength of that conference. So we'll see if that pans out. But I'm not sure that either of these teams really stands a chance against Alabama in the second round. Then we have number 5, San Diego State, and number 12, Charleston. Charleston's another kind of team effort kind of group here. They have winning streaks of 10 games at this particular point and 20 games earlier in the season. It's been a phenomenal ball club. They are 70th in adjusted offense, 75th in defense, but they don't have any outstanding metrics against really good squads. They did beat Virginia Tech earlier in the year, but that's been a dumpster fire of a team. They lost to North Carolina by 16. We'll see how this team translate. They certainly have an opportunity here against San Diego State. One guy's averaging double figures there. This is a defensive centric San Diego State team, as it often is, all the way back to the um, Luke Kennard days, the Kawhi Leonard days. There we go. Wrong Clipper. There we go. They are 5-5 against quad one teams, though 6-1 in quad two, 10th overall in defensive adjusted efficiency, 64th in offense. So certainly not a bad team. The seventh overall 3-point defense. So they'll certainly have an opportunity to stifle Charleston here, who's about average in that metric. But unfortunate we can't see each of these teams who've had good seasons match up against a non-Power 5 opponent in the first round rather than each other. It's similar to what we had last year against, what was it, Santa Clara and Murray State, something like that. It was a whack team in a Murray State, I believe. So that's the award that these two teams get this year, is playing against each other. They'll play the winner of number 4, Virginia, and number 13, Furman. Now, this should be a very interesting matchup. Virginia is following its usual template of playing very slow tempo and just beating you defensively. Not much different in that particular group. They are missing their big man, which is going to be a big problem. Ben Vandel Plas has fractured his right hand in the ACC tournament, and he'll be out for the NCAA tournament. And Virginia certainly struggled against Duke in the finale of the ACC tournament, scoring points. So did Duke, but we'll see if that's a big impact moving forward. They'll get a test right out the gate against the Furman Paladins. Now, Furman has two senior guys leading the way in Mike Bothwell, averaging 18 points per game, and Jalen Slauson, averaging over 15 a game and 7 rebounds, and he's shooting 39% from three. They are the number one 2-point shooting team in the country at just over 59%. They are 33rd in adjusted offensive efficiency. The defense is above national average, but nothing super spectacular. This is a team that seems like it can wake up and shoot defensive minded Virginia out of the game if they're not careful. So this certainly seems like the kind of matchup to keep an eye on here. The next section down here, we have the Creighton Blue Jays in the 6th seed playing the NC State Wolfpack in the 11 hole. Creighton has been interesting to say the least. They went on a horrible skid much earlier in the season. They lost 6 games in a row here. Let's see, it was 6 games, and they lost to Texas, Arizona State, Marquette, who are all in the tournament here. But they lost some bad games to Nebraska, BYU as well. They had some injuries earlier. At this point, they've now lost 4 of the last 8, so they're 500 in their last few outings. They were completely crushed by Xavier in the tournament here, the Big East tournament, by 22 points. They still have a lot of talent. They were young this year and projected to be pretty good coming in this season with just kind of linear progression. These guys will just continue to get better. Pretty balanced scoring. Ryan Kalkbrenner is actually shooting 71% from the floor and is the leading scorer, around 15 points per game. And they are 28th in adjusted offense, 15th in adjusted defense. So the numbers say it's a pretty good ball club. When you look and kind of squint at the numbers here, as far as actually like quality teams they've beaten, there's Xavier, there's Connecticut, and there's not a whole lot else on the record here. So a team that has potential to certainly heat up and win a few games here, make a little bit of a run. Also a team that could possibly lose to NC State here was 2 really good guards, and Trequavion Smith and Jackal Joyner. Both guys averaging over 17 points per game. Of course, this squad has had its own problems, losing a number of games in the very weak ACC. Struggled. We're a bubble team. at one point, quite frankly. So did enough that they made it in as an 11 seed here. They're 7-4 in quad two, 1-6 in quad one. So it's not like they have a sterling, winning record either. Duke was about the best win on their schedule here. Wake Forest didn't make the tournament. North Carolina didn't make the tournament. So best win is a 16-point Duke win back on January 4th. But this team as well, 36 in adjusted offense, a little bit further down on the defensive end, but seems to have pretty good talent as well. So this may secretly be a good matchup once it pops on your television. But the final results have not been there for either of these teams, but could be sneaky guys moving forward. They're matching up against the winner of number 3 Baylor and number 14, the UCSB Gauchos, Santa Barbara here. Now, Baylor is having a hell of a time on defense, but they're number 3 nationally on offense. So that is not a problem for this particular squad. Keontae George, Adam Flagler, LJ Cryer, all averaging over 14 points per game. I'm sorry, the number 2 on offense. So they're going to be able to just shoot teams out of the gym. I don't think they'll have any problem with the Gauchos. But at some point, I think they're just going to lose. They're just going to lose, and it's going to be a little surprising when the shooters there hit some roadblocks, whether that's in round 2 or further on in the Sweet 16. I'm not sure Baylor is truly going to be in the running to make it to the Final Four or Elite Eight or anything like that. But certainly a veteran team. Maybe they can figure that piece out, but they certainly haven't up to this point so far in the year. Next up here we have in the bottom half of that bracket, or the bottom half of that region, I should say, number 7, Missouri, and number 10, Utah State. Now, this is very interesting. Utah State should be favored in this one. Let's see, Ken Palm's actually got them favored in this one, which is not surprising. Utah State on the bubble at one point as a possible 11 seed, possible 12 seed, and now they're all the way up at a 10 is what they're ultimately put in here. I think a lot of the projections and bracketology prior to the actual reveal of the brackets is very different, and the seeding very different than what the committee ultimately went with, which is very interesting. Because projections are just projections until committee members start to see the projections, and that starts to kind of feed into their brains a little bit, and they start to change actual results based on predictions. That does not seem to be what happened here on a number of things. Both the teams that are in and out, the seedings for some of those teams, Texas A&M being as low as they are, Utah State being as high as they are, and in this picture here. But they are favored to beat Missouri, which started 9-0, I believe, and finished around 500 the back 2/3 of the season. They're really good at stealing the basketball, struggle at a number of pretty much everything else as far as the Tigers are concerned here. Now, for Utah State, 13th in offense, with Stephen Ashworth leading the way at 16 points per game, 4.5 assists, 44% shooting. Just a very good ball club here in the very competitive Mountain West, which again got 4 teams in the auto bid and 3 at-large selections as well. Missouri is 10th in adjusted offensive efficiency, and they have good numbers on that side of the ball. 13th best 2-point percentage in the country, but the defensive metrics are very poor. Some of the offensive metrics aren't as great, and just a very good team in terms of stealing the basketball and in terms of actually shooting on the offensive end. But they're 6-9 in quad one, no losses outside of that. So no blemishes on the resume to lower quality opponents, but they've just struggled when it's really mattered. And Utah State has got a pretty slick resume here. So this will be actually one of the really good under the radar games, I think, as well in the first round. Another winner of that will be playing our 2 seed Arizona. After an early exit last year, they'll be hoping to continue their high tempo offense with great shooting and a number of guys to move forward as well. They'll be playing Princeton. who isn't necessarily a walkover, but a team that they should be able to handle here. And they've got a plethora of talent at Arizona. They did manage to beat UCLA, who won the regular season Pac-12. They beat them in the Pac-12 tournament in a very close game, and they have just a lot of talent here. The main guy, Tubelis, Abslus Tubelis, I will never pronounce that right. 19.8 points per game, 9.3 rebounds, 2 assists, a steal, almost a block per game, 57% shooting on the floor, 76% free throw, which is okay at the college level. He can shoot the three ball a little bit, and they have several of the guys averaging double figures as well. They shoot a decent percentage three and almost 50% from the field. Just a very good basketball team there, and just a danger to certainly win this bracket. This would be a dream scenario to see the number one and number two seed here play each other in the Elite Eight for a Final Four spot. And I think that's exactly what we're going to get here. That will be an epic, epic battle. I think that's what we're going to see in the South in this particular region. So, as far as upsets, I think we could see number 12 Charleston over number 5 San Diego State. We could see number 13 Furman over number 4 Virginia. We could see number 11 NC State over 6 Creighton. We could see number 10 Utah State over Missouri. I think we could see any of those possibly happen in the first round. As far as teams that could essentially make a run or at least win a couple of games and make it to the Sweet 16, I actually think Furman could be one of those teams. Um, Furman would be my best bet. It's also possible that Baylor just has some real problems on the defensive end, and a team like NC State goes up and bucks them too. Other than that, with the collision course for Alabama and Arizona, certainly what I think is going to happen, they're probably just going to steamroll whoever's in front of them. So that's kind of what I'm projecting there, and that is my South region first impression notes at the moment. So thanks very much for tuning in, and we'll tackle the last couple regions here coming up.